Let's start at the very beginning. I think that's a very good place to start, don't you?
It was 1942, a year of conflict and turmoil. A gallon of gas cost 15 cents and a soda was 5 cents. And there was a little girl, just a few years old, taking the stage for the war relief effort at Madison Square Garden in New York City. Just a year later, she would make her Broadway debut in The Innocent Voyage at the Belasco Theater. Within just a few more years, she would grow up in the original cast of Annie Gets Her Gun with Ethel Merman, beginning in a role that was created just for her. And of course, there's been much more, so much more. In truth, Mary Ellen Ashley, who began her career as Mary Ellen Glass, has always been and always will be a Broadway baby.
I was discovered on the street. Actually, we were in the neighborhood, Sunnyside. My father had a pharmacy there. He was very well known. We had a very good friend. Her name was Mabel, Aunt Mabel McGraw. She was about 6 feet tall and wore red every day of her life. And she invited my mother and myself to a big fundraiser. And it was star-studded, and it was to raise money for the war relief. And at the end of the activity, she invited me up on the stage, and she said to about 2,000, isn't she cute? Do you know how to sing God Bless America? She said that to me. No. She said, if I do it with you, no. She started to recite it, and I just, and everybody in the audience went, ooh, ah. And at the end of this, a lady came running up to my mom and myself and Aunt Mabel, and she said, she is a beautiful child. You must bring her to study with me. I will get her on a radio show. Well, my mother was not having any piece of that, but she kept calling and calling, and Aunt Mabel finally took me by my hand and brought me to Madame Poignet. That was the lady's name. And she said, I will make her a star. Well, within about a few weeks, she made me a star. No, she didn't. She taught me a monologue, and it was called Mary Elizabeth Gets a Scolding. And she got me on a radio show on WMCA, it was a local, on Saturday mornings, and I recited this monologue, and suddenly she wants to sign me on a 7-year contract. And it was like a whirlwind. And Aunt Mabel said, no, we've got to stop there. And Nick Kenny, who was the MC on this children's program, put me on his show as a steady thing every Saturday morning. Then I got the Horn and Harder Children's Hour on Sunday mornings. And from there, I went to Nyla Mac's Let's Pretend. That was on CBS, so I think I had all the stations covered. And from there, somebody saw me and put me in the Rally of Hope, which was at the Madison Square Garden, the original. And it was, again, to raise money for the war relief, because it was a pretty wicked war. And somebody saw me and put me in The Innocent Voyage. I played the character of Laura Thornton, one of a family of Brits that was coming across to the United States to live. And we were abducted by a pirate ship. We had big stars in it. It was Herbert Berghoff and Oscar Homolka and all these big stars, but it was Broadway at the Belasco Theater, and I was the third lead in it. That's something to remember. I remember my line, it got a big laugh. Are you a pirate or a pilot? I challenged him, and he and I became very good friends. And he had me climb the rigging, which in the Belasco Theater was enormous because it was a big theater, and it went all the way up to the top. And they had to hire special security to make sure that I didn't fall on my bum. And a lot of times I would climb it even when there was nobody there, and somebody would catch me and say, come down, take a nap, it's matinee time. So instead of taking a nap, I used to play poker with all the stagehands in the basement. Well, after the Innocent Voyage closed, I went into 2 flops, both headed for Broadway. One was called Bobino and one was called By Appointment Only. And they headed downward. But there was a big audition going on for a new show, a Broadway musical, and the show was called Annie, Get Your Gun. There were hordes of kids that lined up on the rooftop of the Ziegfeld Theater. And I was in a lineup of about 10 or 12, and we'd go in groups. And I saw that all the kids I had all these like Shirley Temple blonde curlies and dimples and, cutesy pie stuff. And all these other kids were kind of ragamuffins with braids and jeans, and because they were backwoods kids. So I'm watching all the ones that are being chosen. My mother, thinking it was a musical, dressed me up to be a glamorous little girl. I had this beautiful coat and leggings and a hat, a cap, and this. So I removed the cap, and I remember trying to pull my leggings pants up and then stuffing the little dress I had on under it into the top of the leggings, so I looked, oh my God, I was looking messy. Well, finally my group is called, and I'm halfway there with my costume change. And we're all asked the same question: name, age, and what have we done, if anything. And I answer it when my turn comes. And I had this big booming voice, and I was a little thing, but I had this big booming voice. And Josh Logan says, "Oh my Lord," I remember this. And he turns to Dick Rogers, and then Berlin was just behind him on the dais. And I saw her do this role in The Innocent Voyage. He remembered me from that, and he kept me, even though I was not the type. They needed ragamuffins. Well, I dressed up like a ragamuffin the next time when I had a callback, and that was to sing for Irving Berlin. And I remember picking a song I had never sung before, putting my leg over my other leg and pretending I had a banjo, and I sang "Don't Fence Me In." And Irving Berlin ran down, he says, "We must use her, we must use her." So Berlin and Herbert and Dorothy Fields, they were the librettists. And Josh Logan, they all got together and they created a little role for me, and it was called The Little Girl with the Lampshade Hat. And that's because Lucinda Ballard, the incredible costumer, decorated, I looked like a lampshade, like a ruffled lampshade. And then Josh Logan had written, with Herbert and Dorothy Fields, some laugh lines that I uttered. And in my autograph book, after we opened, Josh says, "Dear Mary Ellen, thanks for the 3 laughs." And then I did Nellie, Jessie, and Minnie, all opposite Ethel Merman. And oh boy, you had to be tight and good every night, because that's how she was. We opened at the Imperial Theater after about 2 months out of town, and it was Ethel Merman, Ray Middleton, and I remember Sitting Bull, Harry Belliver. I loved him. He was so funny. There was one thing I remember. It didn't have anything to do with the children, but I was waiting for my cue on the steps. I was up on the 3rd floor, my dressing room, and she was right off the entrance. And there was a little passageway, and her dressing room was right here, and next to hers, catty-cornered, was Ray Middleton's. And she came rushing out of the dressing room with a package. He was on stage, one of the few times she wasn't on stage. And she undoes this little package, and in it is a replication of dog do, quite a large size of it. And he was coming off from, I think, The Girl That I Marry. No, or was it My Defenses Are Down? It was that one in the second act. He was coming off of that, had to change very quickly and rush into his dressing room. And he rushes into his dressing room and he goes, well, you know, he tried to avoid stepping in it. Not that it would have done anything because it was fake. And then you hear her, because that's how she laughed. And I remember that, and I laughed too. We all did. You know, Annie Get Your Gun had a beautiful long run. It was 3 years. It was a big hit all the way through it. I was busy shortly after it closed because I was actually busy before. On Sundays I had Nyla Max's Let's Pretend, and then I had a lot of soap operas. Mary Noble, Backstage Wife, Bright Horizons, Dr. Christian, Death Valley Days, oh, a whole bunch of them. And those finally went into television. And I basically went over with them. And the big one I got was Judy Ann, the Tootsie Roll Sweetheart, sponsored by Tootsie Roll Candies. And it ran a couple of years on ABC. And we did songs. It was a Western theme. It was great fun. Then I got a big show in Las Vegas at the Tropicana Hotel, written by Gordon Jenkins, and it starred Eddie Fisher. I had the lead in the little play, that 45-minute show that happened before the big star came on. Vivian Blaine, lovely, just lovely. Edie Adams and Ernie Kovacs, we had them as stars, divine. Carol Channing, we had her, lovely woman, a little, but lovely. But there were many times when I was just the opening act for a lot of singers, male singers and comics. Actually, I'd just come home from Las Vegas, and it was the end of the season for me, and I had to go back to finish my final year at college, which was fine, because I liked school. I was good in school. And my friend Barbara said, Mary Ellen, come to the tennis court with me. I want to meet Alan. I want to see him. And I said, Barbara, I just got back from Las Vegas. I'm so tired, because it was before they had jets, believe it or not. We had propellers, and it was a long trip, like 8 hours or something. They were playing the finals of this club membership, and both sat down without looking and started with the deck of cards, you know, like this. And we sat there watching that, and I said, Barbara, he's not even looking at you. We should go home. It's not nice. Cyrus, that's mine. Hers was Alan. He said to her, Barbara, you can go, but leave your blonde friend. We went out a few times and went out, and it turned out he was a nice guy, and he came out to see me in Chicago in this play, and they watched it, and Cyrus said, wow, he thought. I thought you were just a little chorus girl. You're good. You deserve a shot. That was Cyrus. And the rest of the time he hung out with John Carradine, which was great for him. And in all honesty, he thought I was very gifted. He really, really respected my talents. I had both my kids by the time I was 23 or 24. Well, I'd been working all the way through it, and I was going off to do a wonderful gig with my club act, one-woman show, whatever you want to call it, at the Panoramic, and that was a place in at the top of a hill in Tennessee. And I'm getting ready to leave this particular Wednesday. It was about 2 weeks into the run. And my little girl comes out the top of the steps and says, "Mommy, don't go." I said, "Oh boy," because that had already been in my mind. So I said to her, "Diana, this is going to be the last engagement for a while. And you'll be seeing me at home." And of course, that's what happened. I completed that engagement and I came home and I stayed home. I had offered me a recording contract, and they wanted me to go on a tour for 40 weeks to promote it. That's what you do with records. I couldn't do that. My kids were in school. Now they were a little bit older, but they were in school. And there was no way I was going to go. And even Cyrus, my husband, said, "Go, go, we'll do it. We'll see you, we'll visit." You know, he was very supportive of everything I did. But I, in my heart, couldn't do that. Once I had a family, the career, in a way, became secondary. And yet it didn't, because I had come so far. I had had so much success. I loved the idea, metaphorically speaking, of the white picket fence. I lived in an apartment, but it was my white picket fence. Then a call comes through. They were auditioning for I do remember, the Brooklyn Academy of Music, which was more or less local. And they were going to do a show there. And that said to me, aha, this I can do, because it's going to be home. I'll be home every night, take my little car, drive to Brooklyn, come home. And that's what I did. I went and I auditioned for it. And it was Bob Calvin who was going to direct it. And it had some of the finest actors in New York in it. And that's where I opened in Yentl. And that's where Tova Felcher made her mark. She played the lead in it. And I played 3 or 4 funny character roles. Nechela, the matchmaker, and Rivka, the gossip, and the Polish chambermaid. And we played that, and then the thing got picked up. We played it, I think, for 3 months in Brooklyn at the Brooklyn Academy, and then we opened off Broadway. No, sorry, I lied. It was Broadway at the Eugene O'Neill. The Eugene O'Neill Theater. And we played there almost a year. And it was a wonderful experience. I started, I guess, getting a little older, like 18, and I got offered my first Dolly in Hello, Dolly. And it was quite joyous, and proceeded to follow it with 11 more productions. Then I got Mame, which I did, 6, 7 productions. Mama Rose was a big one. I did about 11 of those, all over the city, all over the country. And I did 42nd Street and even took that to Europe. I know I did Carousel at the Guy Lombardo Jones Beach, which was a big summer theater. I did Finian's Rainbow there. I did Brigadoon. I did Brigadoon playing Meg Brockie about 7 or 8 times. If you start mentioning one to me, I say, "Oh yeah, I did that. Oh yeah, I did that." Just a roster full of all the choice leading lady comedic roles. I was very, very blessed.
Mary Ellen Ashley has continued to grace the stage and screen with her unforgettable characters and her heartfelt passion for storytelling. The little girl with the lampshade hat may have grown up, but she hasn't lost any of the humor or joie de vivre that makes us all wish we were a little more like her. If you listen closely, you're sure to hear her proclaim one of her favorite mantras, "Onward."
And I would like to play some new roles that I haven't done before. I was a married woman, 59 years. I think I know everything that has happened in this house. I know what's in every cupboard. I know about ways. Well, what's his problem? I thought he was into older women.
Slight misunderstanding.
Well, that's all fine and good, Sonny, but the platinum ladies don't shake their thing for free. Now, which one of you dumb fucks is gonna foot the bill?
Nothing's very scary when you're 84 years old. Not after the things that I've been through. So my granddaughter is gay, golly Moses, lack a day. It doesn't quite compare to World War II.